Joining us live in studio, Liberal Senator Maria Kovacic. Maria, let's start off with your reaction to those comments.
They're disgraceful comments. Nobody should be threatening to burn down Australian Parliament House. No less should an Australian senator be threatening to burn down our Parliament House. It is an absolute privilege to serve the Australian people, and it is a great responsibility to do the work that we do in that building. And if somebody can't accept that and understand that, then they shouldn't be there. And if that's the case for Lidia Thorpe, she should consider whether she is right to be sitting in our parliament.
So what are the options?
Well, that's a matter in terms of the processes within our parliament, and the coalition will be looking at what options are available in relation to that. And I've heard this morning that the government is looking at the same. That is a matter that I believe is referred to the President of the Senate for the processes there to go through. But ultimately, Lidia has to be very clear. These are either deliberate statements, and they are deliberate and legitimate threats to our Parliament House, or she's saying this to incite the individuals that were at that protest, and neither is acceptable.
Well, because, I mean, perhaps her defenders would argue this is freedom of speech, but there is a delineation, isn't there, from a freedom of speech to an actual threat? In
my view, your freedom to speak and your freedom of speech should not present a danger to others, and threatening to blow up our Parliament House is a danger to others. And it's a danger to the democracy in our country. If you do not like something that is happening, then you get out there and you fight for it. But you don't threaten violence and the destruction of the symbol of democracy in our country.
What do you think she, and also the pro-Palestinian protesters who are still taking to the streets at the moment, you just saw the peace deal is being arranged right now, so we're quite possibly, hopefully, looking at an end to the war, but you've got these protests who are trying to keep this alive here locally. I know that the Prime Minister's tried to get people to turn the temperature down, but they're not listening to that. Do you think they're just deliberately trying to incite to keep it going?
I believe they are trying to do that, and I think it clearly highlights that it was never about peace in Gaza. It was never about peace in the Middle East. It was about them advancing their own agenda, and their agenda is not being advanced by a peaceful situation in Gaza.
OK, let's move on. Yeah. You've got another nasty poll today. It's a backward step, another one for Susan Lee. Your reaction to that?
Look, I mentioned this last week when another poll came out. We're only 4 or 5 months out from the last election. People have made their decision, and we were delivered a very clear message at that election, and we are working on ensuring that our policy restructure and our policy rebuild reflects not just the needs of Australians but their aspirations. We're not going to sort of sit and worry about a moment in time. Our job is to develop that policy platform and ensure that we present a credible alternative to this terrible government.
It's not just one poll, though, and it's not just one different outlet. There's a trend emerging here. Is there concern, though, behind the scenes? Is there, a watch of this where you're thinking someone might have to make a move soon?
Not at all, because it's just so close to the last election.
Right.
We are 2.5 years from the next election. This is not the point in time where you actually spend your time worried about polling. This is the point where you spend your time building policy platforms.
Maria, it's been revealed Victorian CFMEU head Zack Smith, he's still meeting up with John Setka after all that's been said and done.
Shocking. This was uncovered last week more broadly in Senate estimates. There was some media reporting earlier in October. I mean, I don't understand what the Prime Minister and the Minister are doing here, and I actually don't understand what the Administrator is doing. The whole reason that there is an administration, and let's be clear, we wanted the CFMEU to be deregistered. Like, its entire conduct is unacceptable. But for them to now go that it is OK for Mr Zack Smith to not only force one of his organisers to meet with Mick Gatto, but for him to actually meet with John Setka is astounding.
Right. So is the allegation here that John Setka's still pulling the strings?
It appears so.
Right.
Why else would the Administrator be OK with Zack Smith meeting with him? And why then would the Minister be OK with that? Why hasn't the Minister reprimanded the Administrator?
The Minister
Why hasn't the Prime Minister done anything?
When the Minister says these are matters for the Administrator, what does that say to you?
Well, it says that this is a free pass for the old CFMEU to keep doing what it's doing, particularly the VicTAS division, where there is no oversight, there are no consequences, and the questions need to be asked whether this is actually a sham administration.
All right, that's Maria Kovacic. Appreciate your time, Maria.